Hello and welcome to beautiful Muncie, Indiana, the home of Jerry from Parks and Rec's Timeshare and the Sweet Shiznits podcast. I am your host, Jason White, and here with me is...
Hi.
Hi. Apparently here with me is Hi.
Hello.
Hi and Lois?
No.
Here with me is my co-host...
Hello.
The beautiful and lovely Krista White. So, Krista, would you like to tell our audience who may not be aware, what is the Sweet Shiznits podcast?
Why don't you tell them this time?
The Sweet Shiznits podcast is a podcast where we watch your favorite or maybe your least favorite 80s movies, and then we talk about them. We tell you what we like, what we didn't like. We tell you things you may not have known about the movie. We tell you things that maybe you did know about the movie. I don't know how much you knew about the movie. We tell you all sorts of stuff. But before we talk about the movie, we are going to tell you about our newest 5-star review. Before we do that, if you would like to give us a 5-star review or any amount of stars, we prefer 5. 5's a nice even number. Actually, it's an odd number, but it's a nice round number.
Then we can
Actually,
talk
it's
about,
not even round.
Then we'll talk about U2.
U2, they were an 80s band.
You
They're still
also.
around. But Miranda Jim gave us a 5-star review. It's a Canadian review. So, our first Canadian review. Canadian, much like Bob and Doug McKenzie, which starred Rick Moranis.
And also much like Horton's.
Horton Hears a Who?
No, Horton's. What is Horton? Horton Coffee? Horton. Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons.
I found
the
it.
way to buy carpet.
No.
But that's Tim Hogan's.
Tim Hortons Coffee and Donuts.
Yes. Where you can find your local police.
You can find Miranda Jim.
And Miranda Jim.
5 stars.
She says, I'm guessing Miranda Jim's a she.
I think Miranda Jim says... Join this movie-loving family for fun film reviews of your fave 80s flicks. Word of warning, you may end up with a few songs stuck in your head after listening, as these hosts love to sing. Enjoy.
And you should do that. You should enjoy. And we do like to sing. I like to sing. Krista likes to complain about my singing, but sometimes she sings too. So... we do sing. We sing.
I'm not sure that what you
sometimes
call
off key.
What Jason does singing.
See, my philosophy in life is this: as much as possible, you should sing and you should dance. Now, you guys can't see me dance because
That's good for you.
This is a podcast. If we ever decide to video our podcasts, then you might get to see me dance.
We might lose some subscribers.
You never know.
Hey, there's no singing at the North Pole.
That is not true. Actually, it probably is true because it's pretty frozen
Don't
up
do
there.
it. There's no singing at the North Pole.
And but if the North Pole were where Santa Claus lives, then there would be singing for sure.
That's where your father would live then.
My father
Is Santa Claus.
is Santa. Okay, I guess that's where we're going with this. Mm-hmm. So this week in the wonderful world of movies, the big movie that people are talking about this week is Ma.
Yeah, I think I might want to see it.
I think we will probably see that movie. It's got Octavia Spencer in it.
We could go see it on Tuesday for $5.
We could. We are
$5.
AMC Stubbs Gold card members. Mm-hmm. And so Tuesdays, they will let you see movies for $5. Mm-hmm. And Ma looks interesting. And Octavia Spencer is a great actress. It does not look anything like anything she's ever done before.
You mean it isn't like The Shack?
No.
Huh.
Also nothing like anything she's ever done before. But
still good.
We like a good horror movie. We even like a bad
you say
horror
movie?
A horror movie. Movies about horrors.
I don't like horror movies.
So
They make me feel insecure about myself.
So this week we're not going to... They don't make you feel good about
They
yourself?
make me feel insecure about myself.
Because you're not a horror? Because you are a horror? I'm not sure where you're going with this.
I don't know. I don't like to watch horror movies.
So Pretty Woman, you don't like that movie?
No, she's too pretty for me.
She's too pretty for you?
Yes.
Because she's a whore?
No, because Julia Roberts is just really pretty.
She has her moments, I guess.
Horror movies are okay. It depends on what kind they are.
Like, you don't like just the blood and gore movies like Saw?
I don't like the really like paranormal movies.
You like some paranormal movies.
Some,
you don't like the just straight up evil movies.
Probably not.
But the kind of slightly like weird,
Suspense.
twisted paranormal movies
I
you
like suspense.
But like you've enjoyed movies like The Shining, which is paranormal.
Sure.
You've enjoyed movies like Poltergeist, which is paranormal.
That's on the edge right there.
And but this week we watched, I guess it was kind of a paranormal movie.
I'm not sure.
It was slightly a horror movie.
We watched this movie because our youngest child's been wanting to watch this movie.
Since we started the podcast.
Correct.
And this
so
movie features a Canadian actor as the lead actor.
Mm-hmm.
And he came from SCTV, which is a comedy troupe out of Canada. His first big movie, which I love, was Strange Brew, which is a hilarious movie about beer and Bake Off. But he was given the lead role in this movie, which is a musical comedy horror movie.
You have to be careful how you say that word.
Movie we watched this week was... Would you
Honey,
like to tell them?
I Shrunk the Plant.
Honey, well, he didn't shrink the plant. He grew the plant.
Honey, I Blew Up the Kids.
Honey, I Blew Up the Plant.
Now, the most menacing musical comedy ever to paint the silver screen green. Little Shop of Horrors. Where did you get such a weird plant? Thrilled to the romance.
Will you marry me?
Witness the drama.
You'll be a 10. You have a talent for causing things.
I've been saving all month for this. I think I need a root canal. I'm sure I need a long, slow root canal.
Feed me, cowboy! Feed me now! Savor the spectacle of the first plant in motion picture history ever to sing for its supper. Starring Rick Moranis, Ellen Green, Vincent Gardenia, with a special appearance by Steve Martin, James Belushi, John Candy, and Bill Murray.
It's your professionalism that I respect.
Little Shop of Horrors.
Now, just a minute. James Belushi was not on the movie that we watched.
No, he was not, because we didn't watch the theatrical version of the movie. We watched the director's cut of the movie.
That is correct, and he was not in there.
The director's cut of the movie, the part Jim Belushi played, was actually played by Mr. Paul Dooley, who you may remember as Molly Ringwald's dad in 16 Candles. But when they went to reshoot the movie, was not available. So they brought in Jim Belushi to play his role. And basically, they had originally shot a very long, very gruesome ending. When they played it for test audiences did not care for it because it was not a very happy ending. So they reshot a happier ending and replaced Mr. Dooley with Jim Belushi.
I had not seen this version before, and I was watching it and thinking, I don't remember this happening like this. It doesn't seem right, and I didn't realize there were two different endings.
So this is a 1986 film directed by Frank Oz, not The Wizard of Oz.
That was my question. How'd you know?
And Frank Oz was actually Jim Henson's partner with the Jim Henson's Muppets. from The Muppet Show and Sesame Street, and which explains a lot of the puppetry that was used in this movie, particularly with Audrey 2.
Audrey was a puppet?
Audrey was several puppets.
She was a puppet?
She was a puppet.
Audrey
2.
Oh, I was thinking, well, she was kind of dumb in the movie. I mean, if she was a puppet.
The movie was based on a 1982 Howard Ashman Alan Menken musical, and the musical was based on a 1960 Roger Corman film. The film was shot in 2 days. It was a low-budget horror comedy film that became a cult classic. The musical ended up running off-Broadway for 5 years and has gone back to run off-Broadway on multiple occasions since then, has been performed by a variety of local theaters and high schools and all sorts of things since then, and of course made into this movie. The original movie and the play had endings much closer to the original director's cut, but in that ending, basically Audrey kills everybody and goes on to take over the world. And
I think you mean Audrey 2. You're getting confusing.
Audrey 2.
Because Audrey is a woman in the movie, not a plant.
And the test audiences did not like that.
I heard you say that already.
So they cut it.
Are you repeating yourself?
Yes. But they made it to where Rick Moranis saves Audrey from Audrey 2 and electrocutes Audrey 2. And they go on to live in the suburbs happily ever after, with just a little shot at the very end of a baby Audrey 2 that lets you know that things may not be quite as done as they appear. So the story of the movie follows Seymour, who's played by Rick Moranis. He is a florist who works for a man who took him in kind of as an orphan. And he comes across a plant who is played by, or he gets from a man who is kind of I guess a racial stereotype of I don't know, in the 80s, a lot of movies had, anytime someone came across something strange or unusual, they always bought it off of an Asian man. That's where they got the Mogwai and Gremlins. But it seems like anytime they came across something strange or unusual, it was always purchased from someone who was Asian. And this was no exception.
How much did he pay? I've already forgotten how much that was.
I don't even know if they said.
No, they did.
Did they?
Yeah.
Because it seems like...
Because it seemed like a lot in the 80s, but I don't remember how much it was.
But it wasn't there, and then...
It wasn't there?
There was like a flash of lightning, and then things went dark, and then all of a sudden the plant was there that hadn't been there before, and so he bought it.
Oh, I gotcha.
So, which you later find out that that's because the plant is an alien. And so he takes the plant back, and it draws lots of business, lots of customers.
I think it's just a Venus flytrap.
Yeah, it's a very unusual, unique plant. But then the plant starts withering.
It's just a Venus flytrap.
It's some kind of trap.
I'm sure.
I think it's from, I don't know if it's from Venus, but it's not.
Is it from Uranus?
It might be from someone's anus.
Uranus is a planet.
My anus is a planet.
Well, we talked about that last time. We probably shouldn't bring that up again.
So I've heard that Uranus is a gas giant.
Well, mine's not, but yours is.
Yes, I also heard that the sun is backwards in Uranus.
Why are we talking about mine? Mine's not the problem.
I don't know. But just little things you might want to know about Uranus.
No, not about mine. Mine was not making all the noise yours was yesterday.
No, that was the guy that was being interviewed when we were watching, what's that show, Dead Like Me?
Dead to Me?
Dead to Me?
Which one?
The one with George.
That's Dead Like Me.
Dead Like Me, yeah.
Are you talking about the guy who kept having flatulence?
Yes, that had irritable bowel syndrome.
Yes.
I've known people with irritable bowel syndrome, and that's not usually the primary symptom.
That is correct. I, too, have known people with IBS, and that's not usually an issue.
Usually it's not prolific flatulence. It's
okay, let's move on.
You have to be vigilantly aware of bathroom locations.
Well, sometimes you don't go for long periods of time. But anyway, let's get off of Uranus.
Okay. So
there's a plant
that may or may not be from Uranus.
And it's dying, and he doesn't know how to feed it
and
or what he needs to do.
Pricks his finger.
He accidentally makes his finger bleed, and he's squeezing it. And I don't know why. Because why do you squeeze your finger and then put it in your mouth and then squeeze it again and put it in your mouth?
He starts sucking his finger, and then
And who does that?
The plant, when it sees him sucking his finger, starts going.
Starts sucking. It's making its own mouth noises.
And he's like, "What?" And then when he puts his finger up close to it, it starts doing it again.
No, it starts trying to bite it.
Well, yeah, first it tries to bite it, but then it's making suckle noises every time his finger comes near. And then if he puts his other finger that's not bleeding near it, it turns its head away. Or whatever the top of the plant is. I don't know.
It's a big head.
And so then he finally agrees to give it a drop of blood. And the next thing you know, the plant comes back to life. But then he has to keep giving it drops of blood.
Well, the next day he notices it's grown twice as much.
Yes. But he keeps giving it blood, and it keeps growing. But he starts getting really faint and like making mistakes at work because he's getting blood deprived. And
then there's the plant one day says to him, and he didn't know it could talk, it says, "Feed me. Feed me." And he's a little surprised.
And he's like, "I don't have anything left to feed you."
Well, first he's shocked. He said, "What did you say?" And he says, "Feed me, Seymour." So that's pretty surprising.
Now, a bit of information that you may want to know is one of the people who was considered to play the plant was one Mr. Edward Murphy.
Now, wait a second. The plant... someone's inside the plant?
No, the voice of the plant.
Oh, that's not what you said.
So actually several people played the plant because it took quite a few puppeteers to be Audrey 2, but only one vocal.
Well, now they wouldn't have anybody being the plant. It would just be
CGI.
Electronic and whatever.
So, yeah, it would be a green screen and you would just be talking to nothing, and then they would CGI it in editing.
So one day the plant tells him, Seymour, that he's going to need more than what Seymour can give him. And Seymour doesn't want to do that because he's a nice guy. And he says, "Well, I'll just go down to the butcher shop and get you a steak." And he says, "No, I need blood.
And it's got to be fresh."
Mm-hmm. And so Seymour's not going to do it. But then he sees Audrey, the woman he's in love with, outside going on a date with her boyfriend, and he knows he's abusive, and he slaps her across the face, and he gets so angry.
And he's like, "Well, the plant's telling him that there are some people who maybe just don't deserve to live." And he's like, "Well, you can't say that. That's not right. There's nobody who deserves to die." And he's like, "Nobody?" And then he sees that happen, and he's like,
and he
maybe.
He hears his motorcycle rev up.
And so he decides he's going to sneak into the dentist office because her boyfriend is a sadistic dentist
who gets off on other people's pain during dentistry.
And now, just before he gets there, the dentist is treating another patient played by Bill Murray. And this patient is a masochist, which is apparently a sadistic dentist's worst nightmare. Because if you really like inflicting pain on people...
I don't think normal dentists do.
Well, he's a sadistic dentist.
Right, and he's upset because Bill Murray wants the pain.
Right.
And he kicks him out of the office after he could not inflict pain on him.
If you really like abusing people and then you come across someone who really likes being abused, it takes all the joy away from abusing people.
Because everything he tried,
Bill Murray wanted
more. And he said, "What's wrong with you? Get out."
So then the next patient waiting to come in is Rick Moranis. And Rick Moranis, he's all about like treating him because he clearly does not want to be abused. And so he's like, well, I'm going to get the laughing gas out. And he's like, oh, no, I don't need. And he's like, oh, no, it's not for you. It's for me.
So he puts double tank strapped on his back and a mask. And the problem is it gets stuck.
Yes.
And he wants Seymour to help him get it off of him. Well, he's not going to do that.
Well, Seymour goes like he's going to shoot him, and then he chickens out. But while Steve Martin's freaking out about it, he breaks one of the valves, and so he ends up ODing on the laughing gas.
Correct.
So he ends up inadvertently killing himself, and Rick Moranis doesn't have to kill him.
His name's Seymour.
Seymour
wraps him up in a tarp
Uranus.
And pulls him downstairs and into the shop. But then Audrey, too, wants him to cut him up.
Yeah, because you can't eat a whole Steve Martin.
Well, not at that point in time.
Yeah, he wasn't big enough yet, apparently, to eat a whole Steve Martin.
But he really enjoyed him.
And so and then later, he's like, well, I still need to eat more. And the boss comes in, and he's talking to the boss, and the boss is like, well, you just tell me how to take care of him, and you can just go on and enjoy
life.
And while he's talking to Rick Moranis about this, Rick Moranis knows that that's not possible because he can't just tell his boss that to take care of Audrey too, he's going to have to kill people and feed them to him.
He's going to have to tell him how you take care of him. Well, and he said that, I don't know what he told him, something about liking raw meat. And he goes, oh, the butcher's just down the block. I can do that. No big deal.
And then Audrey too is, while all this is happening, behind the boss and opens up his mouth.
And eats him.
So now there are two people that Seymour is inadvertently responsible for their deaths.
My stomach is growling.
And so you're
not hungry for raw meat.
You're over here going, feed me. So then, everything's kind of falling apart, and he's feeling bad about it. And then he goes to sneak out because him and Audrey are going to run away.
Yes, he's finally told her how he feels, and she loves him too, and they're going to run away and get married.
And as he's sneaking out, Audrey too catches him, and he's like, well, I'm just going to run to the butcher and get you something to eat, but that's it. And
he says, I can't do this anymore.
So he goes to do that, and Audrey too manages to
make a phone call to Audrey 1.
Yes, across the street. And she comes over, and in the version that we watched, Audrey 2
eats Audrey 1.
Well, first just chomps on Audrey 1.
Right.
And
Seymour gets there, and it's too late. But you see, he gets her pulled out.
But she's already dying.
She dies in his arms.
She just died in his arms tonight. And
it must have been something he said. He should have walked away.
He should have walked away. Wow, that was really off key.
Oh, it usually is.
So
anyway, and then Audrey 2 multiplies over and over and over, and they're taking over the world.
well, first he feeds her dead carcass, Audrey's dead carcass to Audrey too.
Of course.
And then Audrey proceeds to eat Seymour.
I thought I already said then that multiplies.
Well, first it eats Seymour.
Okay, Seymour Butts.
Well, I think before that happens, he gets up on
Did
the
it eat Seymour Butts?
because that's when Paul Dooley comes out and proposes to him.
Right, that he was going to buy the plant and make him
that-
famous. And,
right, and there would be little Audreys in every
Everywhere.
house all over the country.
And he says, no, you can't do that. Well, it's too late.
and so,
He's already done it, and there's little Audreys everywhere.
And so then Audrey 2 eats
Seymour Butts.
Seymour Uranus.
Seymour Butts.
And
I don't know how many times I had to say that before you to hear me.
Seymour Uranus.
Seymour Butts. And they're taking over the world, and they're climbing large buildings, and
The Statue of Liberty, and it
They're
all
everywhere.
comes crashing down.
yes.
And
then
it's like 20 minutes.
aren't there
of-
lasers coming from their eyes at that point? Or am I thinking of Godzilla?
I think you might be confusing different movies.
Godzilla.
So it's like 20 minutes of Audrey's all over the place, destroying the world. But in the movie that
The
most
alternate
people
version.
are familiar with,
The Happily Ever After.
Jim Belushi proposes that he have little Audreys.
Jim
all over the
Belushi
world,
proposes to Seymour, and they get married and live happily ever
and
after.
they Seymour Uranus.
No butts.
No butts.
Butts.
I don't want no butts.
Because a butt is a guy who can't get no butts from me.
I'm not sure if that made sense or not.
Okay, go on.
So, Jim Belushi, the brother of John Belushi, who was dead by this time. He'd been eaten by Seymour too.
Oh, I thought we were talking about something else.
John Belushi was in Blues Brothers and
Okay.
Animal House and Saturday Night
But
Live.
what happened in the show here? The movie.
So Jim Belushi, who was in Blues Brothers 2000, comes and offers him this stuff. And then he goes and he saves Audrey from Audrey 2. And then when Audrey 2 destroys the shop, he finds a wire that has come loose and he uses it to electrocute Audrey 2.
Did you know this was the only movie in which comedy legends Steve Martin and Bill Murray appear together?
I do know that. There were lots of people who appeared in the movie.
Did you know that the dentist office originally was more grungy and blood splattered? But along with that other ending, the details didn't go over well with those test audiences. So the set was cleaned up and they reshot the scenes for that final film.
It seems like test audiences ruined.
It seemed like
a
that they
lot
were
of
big
movies.
babies.
Yeah. They, just make the movie and then screw the test audiences.
Well, and along the lines of the dentist office, Bill Murray's scene in the dentist office in the waiting room was filmed as scripted. But there was virtually no written dialogue. I mean, because he's pretty good at just playing it off the cuff. When his character got into the dentist chair, except for ecstatic cries of pleasure. Over the course of the 2 days that he filmed, Murray kept riffing various ad-libs, which presented a challenge for the editor to assemble a coherent version of the scene.
Which makes sense because it's also been said that the vast majority of his scenes in Ghostbusters were ad-libbed. And so that's just kind of how Bill Murray did movies
Makes it
in
more
the
fun.
80s. Of course, we've talked about Paul Dooley being in the original version and then not making it in the final version. Also, they originally offered the role of Audrey to, which this kind of makes sense, to Cyndi Lauper. Cyndi Lauper, I think, would fit very well as Audrey.
Yeah, that would have been pretty good.
But she was busy recording,
Suddenly Seymour.
and and touring, and she couldn't do it.
Standing
so
beside me.
they'd actually also looked at Madonna for the role.
Oh, I don't think I'd like that.
No. But ended up with Ellen Greene, which makes sense since she had done the Broadway version. But I think Cyndi Lauper would have done fine. So plus she, especially now that she has her plaque psoriasis under control.
Well, it might have been good though if she had it, because she could have gotten it from the plant.
Yeah, and the plant could have just maybe suckled on her flaky skin.
Exactly.
So
the plant was diseased and all.
So what do you think? Do you think this movie gets made today?
I don't know. I mean, I like it, and I watch it repeatedly. Sure. I think the gore would stay in though.
It might be gorier today.
Yeah, I think the original stuff would stay in today.
Yeah, the original ending I think would be more successful today. They might change a few things. I think as with most 80s movies, there was probably a little bit of sexism. I think the racism that is inherent in the Asian character that they buy the plant off of, maybe modified a little bit.
And I think that there would be better effects.
Yeah, but I think
it was pretty good though.
Yeah, I mean, really, the only effects that they used were for Audrey too, and I think that they could stick with using Jim Henson's. Of course, Jim Henson's no longer with us, but
that
using
would be one problem then.
Muppet technology to do that, I think would be just fine. I don't think that they have to go with CGIs and green screens. I think that it worked very well. The way they did it, and I don't think they need to change that.
Let's see what our friend Roger Ebert
Well,
has
I think
to say.
before we do that, we need to take a short break.
Oh, yes. Maybe we do. You have to use the restroom, don't you?
Yes, we need to take a potty break. You can refill your drinks and maybe run to the concession stand.
Show starts in 1 minute. Please remember to replace the speaker on the post when you leave the theater.
Okay, we are back, hopefully with empty bladders and full cups.
I want to go to the drive-in.
And that would be fun. Hopefully you all gentlemen didn't have to stand in that one long urinal trough, peeing side by side, elbow to elbow.
I want to pee standing up.
Probably not in a men's bathroom with a urinal trough.
Just in general, but I can't do that.
That's a very non-private way to use the bathroom.
Did you say privates?
There's a lot of privates. There's not a lot of privacy. When you're just standing there with everybody's stuff hanging out along a urinal trough.
Okay.
So,
now can we talk about Roger Ebert?
We'll talk about Roger Ebert.
Let's see if he liked it or not.
Roger Ebert.
I think he might have.
He actually apparently liked this movie. Gave it the old 3.5 out of 4 stars. Not quite as good as he liked last week's movie,
but pretty close.
But still pretty good. Would you like to read his review?
Sure. Old Roger says, Raj, the movie doesn't labor its jokes or insists on its virtuoso special effects, but devotes its energies to seeming unforced and delightful. It's like, can you not just speak normal language, Roger?
Yeah. And of course, in all of the reviews, if you didn't know this, are clips from his review. His reviews are usually like articles. So we don't give his entire review. That would be a whole podcast in and of itself. So now we'll give our reviews. We give 3 categories that we can rate the movie in. If you like the movie, you can rate it. You're giving me a look.
No, I thought we were getting rid of that one.
Oh, yes, my lovely wife is not a fan of the Def Leppard I'm Hot, Sticky, Sweet.
Not for the movies.
She has said for the last several weeks that she's going to come up with something to replace it with. Being the loving husband that I am and knowing that that's probably not going to happen,
I have to do too many other things.
I
and think of too many other
decided
things.
that I would take that upon myself. And so beginning this week, I have offered up a new top rating. And so if we really love the movie, it will be... Is that more to your liking?
Yes.
So, if you think the movie's okay, not great, not horrible, here I am, stuck in the middle with you. And from our dear friends Daryl Hall and John Oates, if you don't really care for the movie,
Okay, I have a question.
and what's your question?
The first two categories have a very short clip, but then you play a really long one for the I can't go for that.
Well, it comes down to what part of the song says what we're wanting for our review.
I'm just saying that you keep a really long one for the one you don't like. I'm just saying.
It happens sometimes. Mm-hmm. So, how do you feel about this? Do you think that it's simply irresistible, just stuck in the middle, or I can't go for that?
Well, I'm a fan.
So this one from Krista will be... And as for
Can't
me...
we leave it on? She's so fine. There's no other way to go.
I mean, I could play the whole song if you want.
No,
we might
that's
get
okay.
into some
No.
copyright issues.
No, that's okay.
But for me, the movie was fine. It was okay. It was all right to watch. Actually, I love musicals.
I know that you love the movie, and that's not true.
And I love Rick Moranis, Steve Martin, Bill Murray, John Candy. It's like got all of my favorite 80s actors in it. It was extremely fun to watch. I've actually put this up in polls of movies we could watch on multiple occasions. For some reason, it never performed well. But you know what?
We stopped. We didn't ask you this time.
Forget you guys. We only asked one person, and that was my daughter.
Actually, she asked us if we could watch it.
Yeah, we were looking through movies, and she's like, but what about Little Shop of Horrors? I ask you guys like every week if we can watch Little Shop of Horrors, and you guys won't let me watch it. And so we watched it. We loved it.
And so you find it what?
Probably watch it again. And so it is...
I'd like to go see it.
Sorry.
That's okay. I think it's going to be playing at Beef and Boards in Indianapolis sometime this fall.
Probably not with Rick Moranis, but...
No, but I think it might be fun.
I'm sure it'll still be fun. So... is there anything else that we need to talk about?
I don't think so.
So we will move on to the end of our podcast. It is now time to start thinking about
Reminds me of an Elvis song.
closing.
It's time.
It's
The end
closing
no.
time.
The end is near.
Oh.
Never mind.
Now the end is near. Not that one.
Yes. That's
I
not
think
what you were
that's a Frank
singing.
Sinatra song.
No, it was Elvis. I did it my way.
Did you do it your
Elvis.
way?
That's Elvis. Okay, you want to follow us on Twitter at Sweet Shiznits. You can follow us.
Shitnot.com.
You can follow Jason at Gravy Boat Pirate. You can follow me. I'm boring, but I'm at Krista White 73. We are on Facebook at facebook.com/Sweet Shiznits. We are on Instagram at Sweet Shiznits. We have an email that you can send us messages. sweetshiznits@gmail.com.
You can find everything of ours, including links to our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, our email, and all of our other stuff, including just listening to our podcast at our website, which is www.sweetshiznits.com.
Go for it.
You can share our posts and tweets. We would love that. Let your friends, family, and followers know about us. So your followers can be our followers too. We'll just make a trail. It'll be like follow the leader. You
Alrighty
follow
then.
us, they follow you, and everybody gets followed.
You can find us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to wonderful podcasts.
We're everywhere. I don't think we're on iHeartRadio yet, but I'm working on that. So, but everywhere else we're already there. We'll be on iHeartRadio shortly. For those of you who like iHeartRadio, we're on our way.
Don't forget to subscribe and rate us and review us once again, because your ratings and reviews make us more visible for other people to find us.
Yes, and we'll read your review.
Yes, just like we did earlier.
Yes. And now I have a little notifier that lets me know even if you review us from outside of America, I find out about it. So you can't hide your reviews from me, you foreigners. Or if someone from the band Foreigner reviews us, I'll know about that too.
That would be fun.
So you heard me, Mick Jones. If you want to give us a review, I'll read it.
I think you spelled Sweet Shiznits wrong down here, but Sweet Shiznits is paid for by listeners like you. So be a supporter of us, please, and go to patreon.com/Sweet Shiznits. Because if you help support us, we can get better equipment so we can sound prettier to you online or on our podcast or wherever you're listening to us.
If you support us enough, we'll get plastic surgery and even look prettier for you.
No, that's not true. I'm not doing that. I might get a tattoo, but probably not, because I wouldn't use the money for that.
No, we'll use our own money for tattoos and plastic surgery.
I'm not getting plastic surgery. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but anyhow.
But you'll get access to bonus content. You can help shape the content of our show. Tell us what you want to hear and don't want to hear. If there's a movie you want us to watch. And
we'll sing your praises on our podcast, too.
Sing your praise
and
to the Lord.
If you don't
Come
want
on,
Jason to sing...
Stand up and sing one more.
He
Hallelujah.
won't.
Sing your praise
Jason,
to the Lord.
They don't want to hear you sing.
I think they do.
Not that. Nobody wants to sing that.
It's a Rich Mullins song.
Okay, well, he sang it better.
Well, that's probably true. Amy Grant even sang it better.
That's probably true.
Plus, we'll mention you on the air if you want us to. If you don't want us to mention you on the air, we'll keep it on the down low.
And if you want Jason to not sing about you, I understand.
I will write a song just for you and sing it on the air.
Wow.
Or I'll improvise a song just for you. I mean, I won't even write it. I'll just make it up on the spot. I'll be like, oh, Jimmy is our favorite patron.
Wow.
He likes to give us lots of money.
Okay, I think it's time to go bye-bye now.
And so, and we'll give you gifts and surprises. So
anyway,
in the meantime, we hope you guys have a great week. We will try to do the same. And in the meantime, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
And tell your mom I said goodbye.
So long.